Alright, what's going on, y'all? So today we'll be talking about engines and how to set them up for CarX Drift Racing Online 2, and how you could kind of understand it and use it to your advantage. Um, and what engines are good for what. Right. So as you can see, let's start off with the lower horsepower things. Alright, so this 4AG motor, or the high revving motor from 40. The what car is it from? It's from HLD, I think. At Takumi build. This motor is very much like, it's only for the, you could get it to drift. It's just that you have to have the final drive to support it. I don't see no one running this like like not a complete stage 5 build. There's no other point. There's no point to really not do everything at stage 5. At least for, I haven't really done enough testing to really say like, yo, I tested it one time, and like it was when the game came out. Like I think this whole entire build is stage 5. Yeah, I don't know if maybe running a lower intake manifold would give it like a better torque or anything, but the ITBs just sound sick, like how you don't want to go with the ITBs. So I think this motor, you want to run it full. They keyed it out stage 5 everything to get the full benefit of it. I don't think it is very much beneficial to even just run like, I think you have to do it. You have to do the high horsepower, the highest stage 5 everything for this motor. But this car is not set up for this motor at this moment. Like you have to mess with the final drive, get a taller, like a much like higher, like a big final drive, like a 510 or something, like something as high as you could go for final drive to get it to use as many gears, because this transmission is kind of set up for a different motor. But when it comes to the RB, move right along, you could run stage 3 intakes, stage anything in here could be stage 3 except for the turbo. The turbo is the one thing you want to have stage 5 of, only because you could control the horsepower with the boost pressure. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it's cool. This one is more on the wicked up side, where it has the next biggest thing is cams for torque, right? RBs already don't make a lot of torque, so you're gonna need that low end torque. But if you want to rev it up a little bit higher, I would suggest the stage 2. But the perfect setup is the stage 1 cam for the RB. And just for the heads, it just depends on what color you want the valve covers to be. For me, I wanted the black, but I also wanted the highest horsepower without going to red. So I did this setup with stage 3 for the blocks. Normally when it comes to the blocks with the bore and the stroker, you could get away with stage 3, don't get me wrong, but if you have the ability to put stage 5 and just control the horsepower with the turbo. You know what I'm saying? I know for this setup right now, I'm running stage 5 everything with the big turbo, and I could just control. If I installed it, it makes 700 horsepower, 651 torque. I think this was like one of my ultimate packages. I wanted to kind of, I was working on this video while I was building cars, thinking about it that way. Like the highest horsepower I could get out of the motor, but still having that response, like testing every engine part, really, that what's the benefit to it. As you can see, we still have the high rev limit, but we had that lower end torque. If we go to third, you see it wicks up right away, like it comes right back up. So a super responsive motor, and that's what a lot of my builds are, like super responsive, high torque. My horsepower is very close to my torque a lot of times. Like you would think I have a super small turbo on there, but majority of them I just run the bigger turbo just because I could control the horsepower better. I know I'm just going over some of the parts. I'm not really going like building it out with y'all, but I'm just going over the general concept of what the motor is. I'm gonna make a motor on the video, but just going over every motor. I'm not gonna go through every motor and make them. All right, for the VR38, right? This will be for your super high horsepower cars, like well over 1200 and all of that. Like as I said, for this motor you don't need much. Stage three everything. You could run whatever intake manifold you want on this one because it already makes so much torque already, like off rip. So you don't really need to. You could run stage three everything in here and air intake manifold, exhaust manifold, downpipe, turbo, stage three everything, and it will be very much great just because it makes so much torque. So this one is a higher revving one. I like to keep the VRs lower. Like I want to keep it. I want to use that torque to my advantage. I'm not really caring about the horsepower. So I think the highest cam you should go. You could go here. You could go all the way out to stage five, but just look at the torque you're losing. Like if you go to stage one, this motor is making 627 torque. Like at the lower end, like that's crucial. Like and you're still making at the higher end 500. So you just gotta know where you want to be. But the stage three give you a nice balance. You still have that lower end, but you have that top end too. So that's why I do the stage three on there. For the head, you could run whatever you want. To me, I'm cool with this. I'm cool with the stage five setup. But you could run whatever you want really on the head side because you already have the torque. The blocks is not even necessary to be honest. Like you don't need to run a stage 5 block. You could run the lower end blocks like stop block or whatever and still make torque and all of that and be great. But as I said, for this example, this is just the extreme side of it where I was trying to test like the horsepower, like what's the horsepower we could get and still be like what's the highest horsepower we could get, like the higher end build, like like competition level build. So this would be the setup I would run in a competition for this motor. So that's why it's so wicked up right now. Like I said, we could go test it and see how it performs, but as I said, this should make 1200 horsepower and 900 torque. Like no matter what tire you got on, it's going to flash them tires and do what you need it to do. Like this car would be response. This no motor for response, bro. No matter the grip level, I don't think there's a chassis in here that this will feel slow in. Like it doesn't exist. I'm sorry. You can't put enough grip in this car to put all this torque down. But as I said, it's up to you. It's how you want to build it. It's just right there every time. Yeah, I don't care how much grip you put in your chassis. You're nowhere close. You're not gonna. You're not the tire. This motor would always push through the grip. Like there's nothing you could do to really beat that motor. So I think the next to that motor for like high competition setups will be the V8. So let's get into the V8. I have two setups here currently, but I think this is the highest build I would do for competition. Like stage 5 on the intake. This is NA, I mean, sorry. This is the highest what I would do for NA setups. So highest intake manifold, stage 5 everything except for this because stage 5 you start putting supercharger on. So for NA, they make 750 NA. And for the cams, you could choose to go like to have the torque and response, but I feel like a V8 already has that. So I put the bigger cams so I could have a better top end. Not the best, to be honest, but I have the better top end. So with the blocks, you don't really need to do the block, but you lose weight. You lose weight. So I definitely went with the stage 5 blocks to lose more weight and keep the weight down. so we could have them sapney transitions and all of that, and really get into it and have like a nice responsive setup that gets down 700 horsepower NA on tap. Like this is just as good as that VR. Like as you can see, it was there the whole entire time. I'm pushing my foot down, flashing through all them gears. Like this would be the setup for competition also. Very controllable. It's just right there every time you get on the gas. No matter what gear, 700 horsepower NA is very much a different animal. So now let's get back to the shop and try the other V8 setup, but this one was gonna be the for superchargers. Also competition. But to have 750 horsepower on tap, like on demand, like can't beat this NA setup right here. And it sounds magnificent. I definitely love this motor. How it puts down the power for sure. So definitely up there on the pole. But I'm gonna build. Alright, so this will be the first one we're gonna adjust together. All right. So as I said, you could run stage 3 everything. You don't really. But for this one, since it's gonna be the supercharger setup, we're gonna run a stage 5 supercharger. But everything else gonna be stage 3. All right. Now we're gonna see what the horsepower you get. Since we already have that the supercharger up top that's making all that power, we don't really need so much. The bottom end we could have that just to complement the supercharger, but as I said, it's not needed. So this one we still end up making 936, but we also made 800 torque, very crucial. So we could either still come down, like I could have did but remember I said for the weight, with the higher block you're making the weight, like you're losing the weight. Let's do a stage 3 stroker instead, so we're not doing everything stage 5. But the blower is what's, so we still make 900 but we make 700 torque this time. Still decent. It still would wake it still will wake the car up and everything, like we go there. Every gear loses. Like this car is not set up for this, but this would be the competition setup. Another competition setup I run. 6 gear, just straight to the chip, no matter what you do. So if I'm running a supercharger setup, you don't need much. You could have the max supercharger with the other parts, everything else stage 3. You don't really need much. And I did the cam at stage 5 only because the blower is making so much torque already. So you could utilize some of that top end with the supercharger, not just the bottom end. All right. So that's how I run that supercharger setup for the V8. So that's how we looking for that. The SR20, we gonna be building the SR20 together. So this one is more so like what you're trying to do. Like, yes, you could make nice lower horsepower cars with it, but at the same time, like, it's what you're trying to accomplish. Because the motor, I said I wouldn't even attempt to use this in a competition because you'll always be limited to how much grip you could put into the chassis. Because as I said, this motor doesn't really excel at torque to really keep up with the other options. Like I'll put this motor with the same group as the 4AG motor, like that A86 high revving motor. Like that's what this is good for, but not no high level competition when you're really throwing grip at your chassis. Maybe if you want a spec tire like a 265, maybe you could still run it, but I'll you have way more options for a setup with the other motor setup, because I've tried this really. I've tried this every which way, bro. You just won't be able to make enough torque to really throw the kitchen sink at it, but it's still a good motor. You just gotta know what you're trying to do with it. So for this one, let's say off rip, no matter if you're doing high horsepower, low horsepower, you need stage 5 block, stage 5 pistons. That's off rip. So let's see what that horsepower net us. We at 278 torque, right? With just the block. Everything stage 5 right there. We only had 278 torque and the horsepower 300, right? So let's move on from that. The head. This is where it gets crucial, right? Because you have to make the decision if you're gonna let it live on high RPM or you just gonna stay with medium to low torque. Like, you already don't make enough torque, but if you want to shift that power band to the higher rev ranges so you could really utilize the lower gears, being that you're revving it to almost 9k. So you gotta make that decision on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do low horsepower stuff, I would say stay to the lowest cam that you could, or even go to this one, right? Stage 2. But if you put a stage 5 cam and you trying to do low horsepower stuff, you're gonna suffer. Like, you really gotta have the best gearing in the world to really keep it going. All right. For the head, it's up to you if you want to do stage 5 head. But let's say we did a stage 3 on here, right? Stage 3 head with a stage. Let's do a stage. Let's do stage 1 cam, right? Just keep trying to keep that torque up. All right, and you did a stage 3 here. The manifold, I for high torque, for better torque, for more response, I use the stout manifolds a lot of times to try to keep it more responsive. I'm gonna put it that way, more responsive. Well, let's say we did a stage 3 on this, stage 3 on everything else, and the only thing I said, always do the stage 5 turbo because you could control the boost better, right? So everything else stage 3. All right, let's see what we at. We at 600 horsepower, 500 torque. This is perfect for a low horsepower setup. Why? Because you don't need to do much. It's gonna have that response. It's not too high of horsepower where you blow into the tire, but it's responsive. But as you can see, even with the stage 5 turbo turned all the way up, you're not making that horsepower. You're not making over 1,000. I know in the older CarX we had that SR20 for it, that's specific to the S15 that made 1,000. But here, I don't think, no matter what you do, I don't think you're gonna make 1,000, and it's gonna be the best driver. You need that torque, so you can't do the cam off rip. So you're gonna really lose that drivability if you're trying to go for that high horsepower build. But a good competition setup would be this setup right here for like lower horsepower stuff, like 235 with tires, with like just chassis setup, and everybody else is on a 235. I think that's a 235 rear tire at that. I think that would be a fair medium horsepower competition with this setup, but higher horsepower stuff, I don't think this has a place there. But I said, this setup is very good for low horsepower, tandem drifting, whatever you're trying to do, because you could still have fun because that torque number is still high. Still having that torque, that 500 torque, man, makes a big difference, but you have that up top for 600. So definitely one of the better SRs I made with this setup. I would say it's responsive. It's there, but it's not there like the V8 and stuff. But you can make it work. I think I'm running out of tire. Hold on. I think this is. Oh, we still have tire to go. And keep in mind, this is everything at stage 3 too. So you still have room to grow, but it won't make that. I think I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna do one more iteration of this, and then we move on to the 2J. Because I know a lot of people like the SR20s, and you know, might want to use it in competition. I want to give y'all the best fighting chance when it comes to motor setup and having that on demand, like the throttle right there. As soon as you tip in, it does what you want it to do. For just flash the tires and utilize that grip. And think about it too. Weight. When it comes to weight regulation up front, you want to have them snappy transitions. The lighter motors up front is going to be beneficial. Definitely a good motor setup. I'm gonna try to build the highest horsepower one just to see, but I don't really think this is the best. I think this is the best like I've made with the response and everything. But let's say if we did stage 5 everything else, um, let's see if that gave us a higher horsepower number. See what that number looks like, and stage 5 everything except for the cam. Now we at 700 horsepower with 570 torque, and that's the problem. You don't make enough torque. But let's say we made the stage 5 cam in there and see what that at. Now we at 800 horsepower, 611 torque, and that's with all in everything there, like max boost. Probably let's do max RPM thing too and see what that at. We still at 855 horsepower, 611 torque. The 611 torque is nowhere close to what you need, bro. I said you would be living, like you'd be revving it higher for you have to, like I wouldn't, if I'm doing competition with this motor, I would not use 6 gear. I would like to be around 4, 5, 4 the highest. I'll do a nice 4-speed build on here. Because you want to be living on that. You want to use all the RPM basically. You see how long it takes to get up on that chip. See, you see that bogging sensation you're hearing down there. That you can't have that when it comes to high grip situations. Like, yeah, and I understand you could clutch kick and all of that for more style and all of that, but versus somebody in a V8 or a VR just putting their foot down and they ain't got a clutch kick, they ain't got to do nothing. Because remember, this game has anti-lag, so that boosts the advantage for other motor setups too. So yes, it might help the SR20, but the VR setups and the V8 setups and all them 2J and RB setups, them that anti-lag system made those setups that much more better. See it? Bog, 6 gear. That's how I said I wouldn't want to be in 6 gear in a competition. Yeah. So since everything was better at stage 3, I'm gonna put it at stage 3 and make that my hard low horsepower build. Like I don't really need all of this to do what I needed to do, to be honest. So I said I don't see the the SR20 being a very much. Yeah, I think this is the perfect setup for that. So now let's get into the 2J, the motor that I think it pays, like it's gonna be a lot common in like competition setups. And I will buy a new one just for this video and give y'all the spiciest 2J setup of all time. What the stock? I never really driven the stock one. Let's see what it feel like. The stock setup, you could be about third gear, but you gotta have that driver skill. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about it. So, since the 2J is gonna be one of the motors that's just heavy in competition, I think this will be the, if not the most consistent, one of those ones that's like, all right. So to put it in a range, the VR will be like the hardest one to put the power down, being the top of the food chain. Like the VR is the setup that you want to have to really be responsive at all any given moment, max grip, effort, everything in the chassis, everything. The VR is the one, right? Then you're gonna have the 2J that's like, it's gonna put, no, then you're gonna have the V8, the NA V8 and the supercharged V8 are number two. That's like right there. They're good enough to where they could keep up, and you could put the power down and you could control the wheel speed and the grip and all that, max effort, grip and everything equal. Boom, right there with the VR. So first is the VR, second is supercharged or the NAV8, then you have the 2J. The 2J is gonna take that third spot just because it's more versatile. You could be, it's gonna have that response, it's gonna have that horsepower, it's gonna be, you could throw the grip at it and you still could flash the grip with the 2J and all of that, just because you have that anti-lag. So this is one of the motors that's benefiting from the anti-lag. So you can run the bigger turbo and not worry about the falling out of boost and all of that. So this is one motor that will take that spot. Fourth will be that RB. The RB will be the fourth on the food chain just because the anti-lag is helping it. So you could have that higher, you could make that horsepower and also throw the grip at it and try to flash it. It just won't, you can't throw too much grip at it because at some points you're gonna have that bog situation. So third is that 2J. So I feel like this would be the more common one because it's easier to control. When it comes to V8 and the RV, the VR, you're gonna really need how know how to set up a chassis to extract everything out of it. So let's talk about it. So the 2J, right? I think you go stage 5 block, right? And that would allow you to play with everything else because the stage 5 block, right, puts you at 360 torque, 363 horsepower, right? Off rip, right? So now the block is set. You could do with nothing else, right? Just the stage 5 turbo. You at 700 horsepower. So you're seeing with just couple parts, stage 5 block, just a turbo, not even to say you throw a, let's say you throw a fuel system in there, a fuel rail or something in there, and we already no fuel rail, just turbo and block. We already at 700 horsepower, 670 torque. Off rip, you could throw. I'm pretty sure this is spinning all gears already. First is useless. Third is useless. Fourth is useless. Smallest mods. It's already at 7. It's already there. Like, not much needed. So 2J don't need much. All right. So let's say we're trying to refine that. Right. Let's say we want a little bit more. Let's say stage stage five stage five fuel rail. Downpipe you want to be around. Let's say we do stage five. Say we do stage five here. Let's say we do. As I said before, I like to run the stop manifolds, but the most I'll do on the 2J is probably stage three manifold, and that's it. All right, let's see how much horsepower this netted us. So right now we had 800 horsepower, 700 and something torque. Right, we still didn't touch the head. Right, we got stage five, everything here. We had 800. We didn't touch the head. We didn't do none of that. All right, still have that room. We still could go full blown. You know, still have that room to grow. Say we did stage five head, and then we say we throw a stage four cam in there and see where we at. We had 916 horsepower and we had 850 torque. That's where you start seeing it coming alive. And say we did a stage five, right? The stage five, you losing the torque, but you make 1,000 horsepower, but you still make 800 torque, right? So we still could go back, right? You could go all the way with the head. You could go stage five everything, and now we making 1,000 horsepower, 1,008 and 870 torque. So I said, whatever you are throwing at the 2J, it will work. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to do much. So that's why it's in the third place spot. And you can see it's way faster. It's not just blowing through the tire. It's putting down the grip and it's going. So that's why I said this one will definitely be the more common one because it's easier to do what you wanted to do. That's my fault. I'm really driving it like foot to the floor, trying to exaggerate. It's definitely eating the tire, though. I will say that. It's right there, boy. So definitely one of the better ones. But for me, so far, like I get away with, as I said, the block stage five and little my favorite setup. I'm about to give you my favorite setup, but this one would be my competition setup. Not all the way complete my competition setup. I wouldn't run that intake manifold, to be honest. Like I don't really care about making 1,000 horsepower. All I care about is the torque and the response. So, so that's the only thing I would change from this setup, right? When it comes down to it, right? So stock manifold on that one. I feel like the stage three manifold is good too. Let me see. This stage three still make 1,000, yeah. So I think for my competition, I probably run stage three if I need to, but I don't think I need to. So, but as I said, stage one is my favorite when it comes to that. Everything else could be stage three. I'm not tripping about any, like, you know, I don't need to be the stage five, everything except for the turbo. And we should be right around 900, right around there. That would be, this is my favorite, more responsive setup. 800 torque with 900 horsepower. I'm forgetting something. I do not run the biggest cam in this. I normally stick to like the lower cams, right? I normally stick to like stage three, maybe stage four sometimes. Like stage four would be my max. Like make 800 torque, 800 horsepower. Like That would be stage 4 would be my max for that. Like I'm not out here just throwing every the kitchen sink at it. Like I'm not I'm not doing that. I think I might have do the stage 5 head on this just because we have that torque and everything else should be where I want it to be really. So yeah, I think that covers the 2J and all the motors that's in the game. Like I guess I could show y'all what. Nah, that's too much. This video is already long as is. So that's the overview of all the motors and what you need for competition. What are the best motors for competition and how to set them up. That's all I got for y'all. Hopefully this helps y'all when it comes to picking a motor and setting it up for whether you're doing competition or you're doing like you trying to do fun events, like trying to be fun with your friends. So hopefully this was helpful. Peace. Appreciate y'all. Let's keep moving.